All right. Welcome everyone to today's insight session where we'll be talking about financial reporting using Stratum. So we'll start out looking at the data hub and get a better feel for what that entails and how the financial model fits into the entire hub. We'll talk about what kind of data is stored inside the financial data model. And we'll take a look at how Stratum and potentially using Excel connector, where you can tap into that data and build your financial reports. And we'll step through some of those concepts with a demo today, and we'll take any questions you might have. But here's the Stratum Data Hub. As you can see, the financial performance module is part of the entire application suite of Stratum. So as you can see, that fits in with the other areas of Stratum, including sales, planning and forecasting, inventory. Some of this data, sales, typically you have cost of goods sold, whereas financial performance will allow you to take a step further and start storing in more cost measures, adding in additional cost values so that you can get more of a net profitability from your analysis, so you can get a better feel for what's truly profitable for your customers and products. So we'll be talking about that, and then obviously we'll be looking at some views today. There's different ways that you can analyze this data using either Stratum or, as I said, you can certainly use Excel and using our Stratum add-in is a nice complement to building some nice financial reports just straight within Excel. The FPM module, again, it kind of goes through these goals of providing better information about bottom line profitability. So it's going to take your profitability analysis a step further from just cost of goods sold. And if you're not doing cost of goods sold, that's obviously a really good initial step to getting some profitability analysis going and within your application. Within that, obviously, you can uncover some things, right? You can identify areas where your profitabilities might be weak, high cost areas, non-value add activities that might be contributing negatively to your bottom line. So these are the things that typically would be uncovered. When you look at this type of information, you'll see that a lot of that information might not be what you expect it to be. You might see some costs in there that you didn't have visibility to before, and you can start taking action on some of the areas where your costs might be too high. This is not ABC costing by any means. It's just some low-hanging. I would suggest low-hanging fruit initially. If you don't have freight costs, if there's some sort of cost that you're already gathering in your GL that you don't have within Stratum, certainly those are things we're talking about, right? These are classic additional like freight or special handling costs that'll allow you to get to more of a net profitability number. Okay, so that's kind of really what we're talking about. If you do want to factor in some of these other activities, obviously that's one of the challenges. That's one of the things that you'll have to go through is analyzing what some of these activities are and how you could attribute costs to them. So with that being said, obviously that would then provide you with some additional costs that would allow you to again get to that net profitable number. Looking at it from a graphical perspective, the application, as you can see, it covers both product and customer profitability. Those two typically don't intertwine. Specifically with just product and customer related costs, right? So that's a challenge in and of itself. It's just a business challenge, right? Cost of goods sold is already there because that's a transaction between customer and product. At a high level and executive level corporate performance, obviously you'll be able to see how you're performing at a high level, corporate level, department performance. Certainly a budget would be provided where you can compare yourself to your budgets and seeing where you're at in terms of some of the budgeting that you go through for some of the costs. I know some companies out there actually budget not only for sales, but certainly for gross margin. And that's an activity that certainly the financial analysts get involved with to help them forecast gross margin. So that's a challenge of itself. And if you don't have a tool that really allows you to gather this information and gain more visibility to it, then you're behind the eight ball a bit. Another nice thing about this is that once you have this data loaded into Stratum, you could certainly freeform it, right? You could drill through your GL data, explore. You can also structure it. As you can see, I've got a financial statement here, an income statement that I've structured in such a way that it looks more like a classic, income statement report. And this is something that is provided within Stratum. So, within this, I was able to group together certain GL accounts, define my report lines, and be able to group together the accounts by line so that I can get this type of report out and get a net operating income number. So Stratum has this capability. You have this concept of being able to build these types of reports, and you don't necessarily have to go here. This is more advanced, but initially just getting those additional cost factors into Stratum, vetting those out, and making sure those are accurate is a really good first step. But as you can see, there's a destination here, and that's a really good one, and that is you can get this type of financial reporting within Stratum. Using the Excel connector add-in, you can tap right into this GL data and just bring it right down into Excel and define your own report. You can group together your own GL accounts. Once you get data into Excel, you can kind of do whatever you want with it, right? So, you have that concept as well. We have an Excel connector, which allows you to tap right into the data without going into Stratum directly, and then just pulling that down directly into your Excel spreadsheet. Why would you want to use Excel? Other purposes for using Excel? Well, we know that we can connect to the Stratum views, so using the add-in, and you can download that from the app source right there within Excel. But we all know Excel has a very powerful analysis capability, and financial analysts typically gravitate towards it for analysis. So obviously it made sense for us to be able to allow these analysts to tap right into the data and just dump it right down into their Excel spreadsheets. With that being said, then you can, start reporting off of that financial data that you can dump down from Stratum. If you have this type of information, your revenue, your net profit, marketing expenses, cost of goods sold, then you can define an operating profit, and you can come up with some of these slick. This is actually a screenshot from an Excel report I'm getting ready to show you that you can build, within Excel. You can do really cool stuff like this just right within Excel. And not to mention Power BI, if that applies, that's something that you could use as well to tap into the data and build some financial looking dashboards as well. So, that's always in play. My name is Adam Kurtz. That's how to contact me. That's my email and my phone number. If you need to contact me, if you have any questions about what we discussed today or anything else for that matter involving Stratum, I'd love to talk to you. You can go to our website, explore. Our customernet.silvon.com site is for our customers. Feel free to go there and explore. We have a wonderful knowledge base there that's been restructured. So I highly suggest that you go out and check that out on the CustomerNet site there on customernet.silvon.com. All right, so let's take a quick look at some of the reporting and some of the capabilities about once you get some of the financial data within Stratum. Here I pivot right over to our demo, and as we can see, we've got this capability of, well, this is our interface. And so you've got, these views that are for your uh, some of the pre-built views that are available for you. And we can see that some of the financial reports, some of these are custom because they were built using that custom tool where you can actually go in and define your report lines. So, before we even look at some of those reports, if I go to my favorites, we can just see some of the profitability options that you have within, without even having to go to traditional looking style reports. If you wanted to run a customer profitability report, you can type in a specific customer if you want, or just look at them all by clicking OK. And this is kind of what was talking about here. We've got a good portion of customers here within our view. We have sales, we have our standard cost of goods sold, which gives us to our gross profit and our gross profit percent. With some formatting there and conditional formatting, we can see that, at 23%, this particular customer is, pretty average. We can see that, that being yellow and intermediate meaning roughly, this is pretty average. But what do we see beyond that? A lot. We now we can see what marketing allowances have been allotted towards this account. We can see any deals that marketing has done with this particular account, transportation costs, freight costs, order entry and maintenance, sales commissions, returns processing, and on and on and on, before you start getting down to a net profitability number. So we've whittled down our profit from a 10.2 roughly to, down almost $1 million, right? And that's, quite a bit of costs that are being factored in here. So though that's what I'm talking about. And you can click in on these and certainly you can see that it's a year-to-date situation for these measures. So this is a year-to-date view that we're looking at. Net profitability, I guess contextually, from a relative perspective, these guys are doing okay. They're green at 21%. So I guess they're not doing so bad. Here we can see one that roughly has the same gross profit, but they're a little bit lower. So we can see that for Wilder Foods, the Western division, we can see that some of their costs might be a little bit more in terms of what they've done. And you can kind of compare the two there. And so on and so forth. I can keep going on down towards my list. Some of the customers don't have some of the costs associated to them. That might be true. Maybe you're not spending as much marketing on some of those other accounts, but then you can really kind of get a feel for and go on to your next slot of customers here and just keep your analysis going, where you've got all this visibility here to this wonderful profitability, all these costs that really kind of allow you to get to that net profit number. And this is just simply getting in costs into Stratum that allow you to again take your profitability beyond just the standard cost of goods sold. If we want to, from a customer perspective, we can see that if I run this particular view here, I've got a column that basically is highlighting all my costs for customer related activities. And if we have visibility into that, then we can start calculating a net profit based on our initial gross margin. So here we can see that allotting in some of these customer costs, Wilder Foods, all their net profits are, roughly in the 9, 8. And so we can see that, that takes out a bit from the initial gross margin amount that we can see here to the right. It goes from 23 down to a 21% net profitability number. So again, being able to add in these additional cost measures, being able to calculate those in, obviously then you're going to be able to get to some of these net profit numbers that will allow you to really kind of analyze where you might be losing more money on some of these accounts and some of these activities. And part of this exercise as well, if it warrants it, is being able to load in data directly from your GL. We can see that I can then drill in on my GL data, and I can just willy-nilly explore it if I wanted to. So here I can see all my GL accounts and some of the GL numbers, that the transaction amounts that are attributed to those GL accounts. So, and from this, this is how we build those financial reports. Our first step is to get data in from the GL, have these GL accounts loaded into Stratum, and then we have a tool that allows you to build and structure report lines that will allow you to summarize or aggregate certain GL account numbers, such as our income statement. So if we were to look at the income statement we just saw, I can go into our line definition utility, and we can see how some of these got built. So I can see that if I go into the income statement report and I go to the lines of the report, then I can see how this was built and how each line was built. If I go into meals and entertainment, for instance, I can click in on that particular line, and I can see that there's really just one GL account associated to it. But if I had another one that was relevant here, I can then add in an additional GL account number. And then that would reflect both of those accounts on that report line. And so on and so forth. So you got, all of these different areas where, my, I might want to include different account numbers based on the different line of the report for my income statement. Some of these you can base on account numbers, and then some lines you can build based on other lines of the report. So there's options that you can go through here to define each financial report as needed. So here you can see I've got a cash flow, I've got an income statement and a balance sheet that I've gone through and defined reports lines for, where then I can go into Stratum, and once I process those report lines, they then become available to me as financial reports. So now, once I've grouped together those and defined those lines, as you can see within my income statement, if I match that up to the lines within my definition utility, I can see how this was built out. And this kind of adheres to all the different lines that we've defined. And some of those lines are just dotted, just breaks within the report where you just want to section out certain things. And just have a blank line, obviously, where it kind of lends to the format of the report. So that's part of the line definition utility, is being able to put in just a line there for an underline, as an example. So going a step further, I can go look at my balance sheet, for instance. So here's a balance sheet. I can look at all my assets, my cash, petty cash, accounts receivable. Of course, some of that data is missing, but nevertheless, I can change my time if I want to just look at a specific month. You can do that because this is Stratum. You can be able to identify or focus in on a specific fiscal period. Here we can see if I click in on my receivables, I can then drill to detail, and I can see what's coming in down, who owes me what, and I can see that aged out based on a salesperson and by account. I can see who all the different money that's expected in for my receivables and when they're due. So these are aged out by 30, 60, and 60 plus days. So being able to drill from the report to the actual income statement or the balance sheet in this particular example, and drill to that type of detail, you would construct that. This is just natural, being able to drill from one report to another using just regular Stratum capabilities. Providing that extra detail. So the balance sheet itself won't give me that detail, but I can drill to it and get access and visibility to it. If you want to look at it, and these reports are certainly available in a monthly trend. So if my balance sheet, if I want to see that by fiscal period, I can aggregate it up to the year, or I can drill in and look at it by period and see what my trend is for all the different areas for my balance sheet. So time, obviously is available for drilling, and that's just a natural part of Stratum. Again, same thing here with the cash flow statement. Here's my cash flow, with all the receipts from customers, receivables, etc. I can certainly just aggregate that up and look at it at a yearly level or drill that down as needed. So just within Stratum itself, you have this capability of building these reports, starting simple, adding additional cost factors, starting with, freight costs, handling costs, some costs that you already have penned or you're already coining them. And they might already be in ERP and just another field over there waiting for you to pick it. If that's the case, then that's low-hanging fruit, and that's something that you get at and get done pretty easily and take your profit analysis step further. If I already use Excel as my front end and just grab data directly from Stratum, then we can use our Stratum interface here, our add-in, to go out and get data and grab data from a specific view within Stratum directly. So here on the right-hand side, I can see that there's already been a connection made to a view called income statement, new raw. And if we were to look at that, it just dumps down the data from that income statement that we saw earlier. And with these data points, I'm able to actually build out this report. And you can bring in both 2018 and 2019. But as you can see, I can do some really cool things with some of the data that I have just from my income statement. And then you can disseminate this out to your executives on a year-to-date basis, every month. Do whatever you want with it, right? This is pretty slick. I can actually change the time frames. If I want to look at a prior year, you can do some slick things. This is just natural Excel capabilities. But being able to tap into this data, dump it down into Excel, and then start building off of that based on the data that you dump down from Stratum directly. It's just a matter of going out, tapping in, getting access to the Stratum interface, the add-in here for Excel. I click on Get Stratum, and as you can see, it gives me access to all the views that I have within the Stratum application. So if I wanted to look at income, some sort of income statement, I can then put in the word income, and then I can dump down any one of these into another spreadsheet as needed. So if I want to dump down this income statement, then I can just dump that down. It dumps the data down for me. This one here, if I wanted to do that one, I can dump that down too. So getting the data down into these different areas and then being able to build off of them is something that you can do pretty easily here. Okay, so the financial data, whether you're using Excel or Stratum, just start simple, right? Being able to identify where do you want to take your profitability? Is this something that you want to take it a step further? If you don't have any cost in Stratum at all, I guess a good first step is to ask your enterprise, why not? And I know some of the companies out there are private and they don't allow visibility into some of the costs. That's fine. That I get that. But if that's not the case, then certainly, that'd be a great place to start, is getting your cost of goods sold in there and any other costs that are available that you're just not importing into Stratum. So, that'd be a great place to start. If you want to take that further, then as you can see, we've got the tools necessary to store your financial data and to start building reports and alerts off of some of the data. If you found areas that you're negative or you're at negative net profitability, well, that's a problem. So this will allow you, to store that type of data and gain access to those types of anomalies, which would, otherwise, could get lost in the